Have you ever heard of a grave so restless it refuses to stay buried? In a quiet, forgotten corner of Chase, British Columbia, lies a cemetery with a story that will make your skin crawl. They call it the grave that wouldn't stay closed. The tale begins with a simple wooden coffin, buried like any other. But the very next morning, groundskeepers arrived to find a scene of utter disbelief. The coffin was no longer 6 feet under. It was sitting on top of the freshly turned earth, as if it had pushed its way out from below. Puzzled, they reburied it, blaming loose soil or perhaps a morbid prank. But the next day, it happened again, and again, and again. Night after night, the coffin would rise from its grave. The cemetery workers, once skeptical, grew terrified. They tried everything they could think of. They dug the grave deeper, weighed the coffin down with heavy stones, and even tried chaining it to stakes. Driven deep into the ground, nothing worked. Every morning, they would find the chains snapped, the stones scattered, and the coffin sitting serenely on the surface, waiting. The news spread like wildfire through the small town. Fear gripped the community. The workers, driven to their wits' end, abandoned the grave altogether, refusing to go near it. Who or what was in that coffin? And why did it refuse to rest in peace? The locals began to whisper curses, avoiding the cemetery after dark. The area around the grave seemed to grow colder, the air heavier. Soon, stories of paranormal sightings began to surface. People passing by the cemetery at night reported seeing strange, flickering lights hovering over the notorious plot. Others claimed to hear faint, sorrowful whispers carried on the wind, seeming to emanate from the direction of the defiant coffin. Shadowy figures were said to dart between the tombstones, always vanishing when approached. Was it the spirit of the person inside, unable to find peace, or was it something else, something darker, drawn to this place of disturbance? The legend varies depending on who you ask. Some say the person buried was a man unjustly accused of a crime, his spirit fighting to clear his name. Others believe it was someone who practiced dark arts, their unholy power reaching beyond the veil of death. One of the most popular versions tells of a chief who, upon his death, was buried with a sacred, powerful pipe. His spirit, it said, would not rest until the pipe was returned to his people, so he pushed his coffin to the surface each night as a plea. Eventually, the story goes, the townsfolk, weary of the nightly terror, exhumed the body in the pipe. They gave the sacred object to the local indigenous tribe, who performed a ceremony to honor the chief and pacify his spirit. After the ritual, the body was reburied one last time, without the pipe. The next morning, the grave remained sealed. The coffin never rose again. But the story doesn't quite end there. To this day, the site remains a focal point for paranormal investigators and curious thrill seekers. Visitors still report sudden drops in temperature, feelings of being watched, and the unsettling sound of disembodied whispers near the now unmarked plot. The ground where the coffin once lay is said to be barren, with nothing ever growing on it again. So, what do you think? Was it the ghost of a wronged chief, a powerful curse, or simply an elaborate local legend that grew over time? Some mysteries are never fully solved, and the grave that wouldn't stay closed remains one of history's most chilling and perplexing tales. The earth may have finally claimed the coffin, but the haunting legacy continues to linger in the quiet air of that British Columbia cemetery. Thanks for joining me on this dive into the unknown. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mysteries. See you next time.